Hello, my name is Jim Layden, Deputy Director for the West Springfield Council on Aging and Senior Center. This is our first segment of the Center show at the West Springfield High School Innovation Studio. The goal of our show is to educate, provide resources, and bring awareness to the community about issues affecting West Springfield older adults, their families, and caregivers. Joining me today from Choices Elder Support is Sharon Connor. Sharon is a licensed clinical social worker and aging life professional who specializes in guiding clients and their caregivers toward quality solutions to health and aging challenges. Welcome, Sharon. Thank you for joining us today. So, Sharon, can you tell the audience about the services offered at Choices Elder Support?
Yes, I offer care management services to older adults and their families when they're experiencing problems with their health and their independence. Offer assessment, recommendations, ongoing care to help them out.
Okay, what types of health issues are you primarily seeing?
Well, it could be all different kinds of things. People coming out of hospitals with problems, cardiac or new diagnoses. A lot of times people who are having problems with their memory impairment, I'm helping out those people.
Okay. What is your background in aging services?
I've worked for the last 22 years with older adults in skilled nursing, retirement community, home care environments. Prior to that, I worked with people who had developmental disabilities and mental illness.
What is the difference between care management and home care services?
So care management is I come in and do an assessment, give recommendations, monitor, oversee care plans. Home care is if you have like a home health aide or a certified nurse's aide coming in and helping you with hands-on care, helping with bathing, cleaning, shopping, that kind of thing.
Okay. Can you discuss your assessment procedure?
So the assessment is of pretty detailed questions where I would go in and meet with the elder and their families separately or together, depending. Sometimes it's more than one visit to see people under different times of the day. And really what I'm trying to determine is strengths and different areas where we could provide support.
Okay. So when you're coming in, are you meeting all together individually, or is some of this done over the phone? Is it done through email? How do you bring everybody together?
So oftentimes initially people call me on the phone and we'll have a conversation about what's going on and why they are thinking about my services. They ask me questions. If at that point they feel like they do want to proceed, I'll make arrangements to meet with sometimes the family member first, sometimes the older adult, depending on what the situation is. It could be together. Okay. Oftentimes people will call me who live a distance away, and that can be very helpful for them to hire me because they don't live nearby and they're concerned. So that would be them talking with me on the phone. I would then go meet with their parents or whoever it is that they want me to help out, and then call them or respond to them in email.
What other professionals consist of your care management team?
I work with nurses and other social workers.
Are they involved in your assessment process?
They can be. That's something that I determine at first. I go in and do my assessment, and if I feel like I really need that other side, the nurse's input, then I call her and have her come in and help me out with that.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
So how is someone referred to your service?
Well, right now I'm trying to let people know that I'm here, so thank you for allowing me to do that.
It's our pleasure.
And really, people need to know that it's a resource, I think. It's important for them to know that it's an option. And over the years, the people that I've worked with, I let them know what I'm doing and hope that they can also let other people know. People that work in assisted living, skilled nursing environments can just let people that they're working with know that this is an option for them.
Can you give us an example, maybe of one of your most recent referrals?
My most recent referral, I was referred by a family member called me. She lives in a different state. Her mom lives in this area. She was given my name by somebody who works at an assisted living. she and her family are looking into having her mom move into the assisted living, but they're not sure if that's the right place for her. Their mom has a lot of questions about it. And because she doesn't live here, she's found looked at my website, called me. We had several conversations actually, and she decided to go ahead and have me get involved to see if the assisted living is the right step for her mom and to just help her mom and the family through the process. It's a huge change. There's a lot to take into consideration, and she really wants to look at everything. And the way she put it is she said, I really want to honor my mother and do the right thing for her, which is a great way of looking at it, I think, yeah.
It's probably got to be difficult for the family member who's out of state trying to coordinate all of these services. There must be a sense of relief when they talk to you about what it is that you offer and be able to kind of organize all these services for their parents' behalf.
I think it is. I think it's hard because, first of all, this isn't what they do for a living. They don't really know as much as people who do this all the time. So to know what's available, to know what the options are and what the issues are is difficult. And then to try and do it from a distance, I think you know, it's hard. You don't know what's going on and you want to be there for your family. Yeah.
How do people hear about your services? So how do you market your company?
Well, I have a website. I'm a member of the Aging Life Care Association, and they provide a website so that people can go, if they're doing a search, they can go into that website and plug in a zip code, say it's the West Springfield zip code. They can pull up the people that do this work like me in this area. So that's one avenue.
Okay. Now, do you serve only families from the Western Mass area, or do you serve other regions as well?
Pretty much just in Western Mass. Up until this time, I've had clients from Hamden, Hampshire, and Franklin counties thus far.
Okay. So what does your assessment and care plan address specifically?
There's three main components. The first one is health, and that includes, medical diagnoses, doctors, medications, but it does also include things like what we call activities of daily living, dressing, bathing, cleaning the house, managing a household, things like that. So that's one component. The second main component is finances, where you're at financially and what services you could afford to bring in and what you might be looking at. Also included in that is if you've made any plans, like have a healthcare proxy, a power of attorney, for the time when you may need those things. So looking at those things as well. And then the third and equally important is your lifestyle. What sort of things do you like? What's your history? What are your hobbies, your interests, your goals? And you take that into consideration. Who are you as an individual, which is going to make your plan very different from another person's.
Sure. And once you gather all of that information, how long does it take you to formulate your assessment?
It just depends on I try to do it pretty quickly because usually people call me when they're in a situation where they have to make a decision or when they're in a health problem or a stressful situation. So it should be timely. If I can do the assessment, depending on how many visits, if it's me and the nurse as well. I've wrapped them up in a week when I've had to. So it can be done, it just depends. It's, kind of flexible.
Sure. And I would think that everybody's is different, obviously based on needs and challenges and things that are going on within the home.
It is different. Sometimes I'm looking at an individual, sometimes a couple. I think I mentioned before, sometimes there's differences of opinion within the family as to what should be done. So I might be interacting with several family members and they might have a different point of view. People that live a distance away don't necessarily have the same point of view as the people that are right here or as the older adult themselves. So I think trying to communicate and negotiate and kind of get all the pieces together, it can take more time. Some are going to take more time than others.
Do you find it can be challenging trying to balance everybody's emotions when it comes to caring for a loved one? You have different opinions, and where does your knowledge and how do you balance that to kind of accommodate everybody?
So my focus is on the elder coming in and giving my professional opinion and assessment. And I think that's where it's a neutral opinion, and that can help. When we're caring for our family members that we love, we get emotional. And so I think having that neutral third party that doesn't have that emotional component is helpful to the family. So I really just focus on what I think, in my professional opinion, is best. And if I have any questions about that, bringing in the nurse and other opinions. So in that sense, it's not really difficult because I'm only just giving recommendations based on that. And I think that can be I've heard family members tell me that that neutral opinion is very helpful to them.
Sure.
To have another person come in, and whether it's different from their opinion or the same, it's helpful for them to see and to hear that other sort of third-party opinion. Yeah.
And once you have the plan, when do you start implementing it? Is it something that's quickly? Is it kind of talked about over a period of time?
Well, it can be either of those things. If somebody's in a health crisis, something has to be done right away. I have a client that I've now been working with for over a year, and when I first met her, she was really very, very anxious and had a lot of problems. And so we really needed to implement some things right away. Now she's in a much more stable place. She has services in place that are very helpful to her, but it took time to get there. So some things we implemented right away, having extra supports. And then others, she moved into an assisted living. That took some time, and then it took time to adjust to it. Now, 6 months down the road, she's really in a much better place, much calmer, much more stable place. So some issues might need to be put in right away, and others, maybe you just want to think about them.
Right.
You know, if people are doing okay, then they might just want to think about it for a while.
And it sounds like the plans that you come up with are always, it can be subject to change.
We're always changing, and I think that's what's interesting about what I do. It's what's challenging. I can have a plan in place, and things might not go according to the plan. We have to be flexible when we're talking about health problems. You know, we don't know, exactly what's going to happen. We can just plan the best we can. So I try to remain flexible and responsive.
Who initiates the change? So when you have to change somebody's plan or their assessment, is that the client contacting you, or is it just from things that you're observing?
Both. Oftentimes it's communication. I've had one client who, over time, communicating on the telephone and through email with her daughter, either she or I have said, I really think it's time to make a change. I really think we need to do this or that. In one instance, it was the client's doctor who said, you might want to consider this. And he just recommended, and then we talked as a team, and over a little bit of time, but not too much, did go ahead and implement his changes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so once you have your plan and assessment in place, is that a written agreement between you, the client, and the family, or how does that process work?
So when I'm hired by somebody, I do have a written agreement, which is a pretty simple, this is what we're agreeing to, and this is how, if we don't like these services, we can end them. So that's just a simple agreement. The plan of care is really just recommendations. It's not something that it's my recommendations, and I give like an issue that I think is a problem or a need statement, and then go through and recommend a couple of different options for them. It's kind of a roadmap for people. And it can change. It might be, it's relevant to what the situation that the elder is in, but they don't have to utilize everything. It's really just to give them guidance and a way to start, and it can change over time.
Okay. How does a family pay for care management services?
It's through private pay at this point. I would look in, if somebody had long-term care insurance, I would look and see if that's something that would cover it.
Okay. Can you discuss consultation? So what if an older adult really isn't in need of immediate services, but they're thinking maybe a little bit down the road that they may need your services? Can you explain how you consult with people like that.
I think that's been a service I've provided quite a bit, where people are just interested in their options. Usually people are thinking about it because they've had some health problems, or they've had something go on that's made them think, maybe I should plan for the future if something else should happen. So I talk about why, that health problem and what's been going on with them, and then proceed with the assessment, and then give some recommendations as to options that they might want to consider. Yeah.
So who directly benefits from your services?
The client directly benefits, and the family who's taking care of them, whether they're doing that from a distance or whether they're right here. My goal is to give people the best quality of life that they can, even if they're having problems. Right. To really still be able to do the things that they want to do.
So we talked a lot about caregivers that are involved in this process, and it can be overwhelming for them. Do you provide services for caregivers that are, say, having challenges with burnout, and they're having a hard time in this whole process?
Yeah, I think, people want to do the best they can for the people in their family, and so they work really hard at it. But they also have other responsibilities. They might have a full-time job. So I see people that really could use a break. So I have had family members that have been involved in daily care say, I really just need to take some time off, and I've been able to help them by substituting that care.
Right.
And then they come back and they say, okay, now I'm back.
So it's definitely providing a big sense of relief, you would say.
I think I help that person that can be helpful, that you can feel confident is helping your family member in a good way.
So are you seeing more families dealing with memory impairment issues?
Yes, I would think so. Well, over the years I've done this. So for 22 years I've been working with people in the community who have memory impairment. So I can't really say that it's more, because that's what I've done. I just see the challenges. Right. I think people just don't know what to do. Right. It's hard. Right. Yeah.
Do you have an example of one that you've seen recently that stands out?
I guess several of the people I've worked with recently, the client themselves were resistant to having any changes implemented. Okay. And the family was concerned. So in those situations, we've done some gradual, gentle changes that were helpful in a way that the client could feel comfortable with. Really trying to give someone control, options. Talk to them about what they want, and really honoring and respecting that, at the same time letting them know safety and concerns, things around the house. You can do simple things in the home. Part of my assessment addresses home safety. Right. So things like putting in bars near the tub. Those are simple but very helpful things for people. And if they can see that that's helpful to them, they become a little bit more relaxed and comfortable, realizing that my services or other services that we bring in are there to benefit them.
Right. So a lot of it's about education.
Yeah.
And a lot of it's also about advocacy. Can you just describe how you advocate for your clients?
So one of my clients has some memory impairment, and I go to the doctor with her. I take her to the doctor. I help keep track of her appointments. But I also actually go into the appointment with her. And she might complain to me over the course of a week about some health problems, but then we get into the doctor's office and she might not remember. So I might say, do you mind if I tell the doctor what you were telling me earlier? And she'll say, oh yeah, I forgot. So then I'll make sure that the doctor's aware of maybe some symptoms that she would not have remembered to tell the doctor if she had gone in on her own. Right. To make sure that that gets addressed. So I think that's a way of helping and advocating for people.
We use the term older adults nowadays. Well, what is the age range that you're serving?
Well, I don't have a specific age range. My experience has been with people that are in their maybe 80s, 90s, and beyond. But I actually have some clients recently who are in their 50s and 60s, so it's flexible.
It varies.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
So what are some of the biggest challenges that you have seen facing older adults seeking your services?
wanting to remain independent, having to do things like give up driving and then how do you find a ride places, things like that. Wanting to access services and not knowing which are the right ones. And again, family conflict, people that are feeling uncomfortable with making changes and wanting to help their parents but not sure exactly how to do that, maybe not agreeing on how to do that, or maybe have their parents get upset, you know. So that's really hard. I think that's one of the hardest things, is seeing families that want to do the right thing, but there's not agreement about how to go forward.
What is your feeling on just the healthcare's rising costs in general?
Well, I think that's hard on everyone. There is a cost involved, but I think it's important to look at all your options carefully so that you spend what you have wisely and on the best. You know, there are options. I think now there are more and more options for seniors, and that's important as we go forward. But knowing the best path to take is going to help you maybe spend what you have as wisely, make it stretch to go as long as it can.
Okay. Can you give an example, if somebody was in need of emergency services, how you would work with that client and their family?
So one of my clients had to go to the hospital one morning. I got a call about 7 o'clock in the morning. She was on her way. So I met her there. I met her in the emergency department and just made sure that she was somebody who has memory impairment, so it was hard for her to be in a hospital by herself, not knowing what was, you know, really going on. So I stayed with her and helped her throughout that process and was in contact with her family through email because they live in different states. So let them know what was going on along the way. And then when she was ready to come home, I was able to bring her back, make sure she had her medication and everything in place.
Okay. There's so many home care agencies out there, and I'm sure there's a number of care management service agencies out there too. What would you say, Sharon, that really separates your agency from others?
Well, I would like to say that the experience that I have and the detail in which I look in, and the individual is really looking at the individual as trying to do the best plan and the flexibility. There are a lot of services out there, and I think they all have their limitations, and as do I, but I think to be as flexible and responsive as possible is helpful.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay. So how does someone contact Choices Elder Support?
They can go to my website, so it's choiceseldersupport.com, and my phone number's there, and you can email me through that website as well.
Okay. Well, thank you, Sharon. It was a pleasure having you here today. Hopefully we can meet again in the future to discuss your services.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
Yeah.
This concludes our first segment of the Center Show. I'd like to thank Sharon Connor for taking the time to join us and reflecting on her valuable services and field expertise. I'd also like to thank the team here at the West Springfield Innovation Studio, along with the Town of West Springfield's Marketing and Communications Department. Please join us next month as we discuss property tax exemptions for older adults with Randy Austin from the West Springfield Assessor's Office. The West Springfield Council on Aging and Senior Center is grateful to the viewing public for this opportunity to thank you.